Sadiq Khan's London night czar, Amy Lamé, has quit her job after nearly 8 years of doing, as far as I can tell, absolutely big fat zilch. She's left the capital's nighttime economy in tatters, while those in Manchester and other great cities in the north and the Midlands are doing stonkingly well. She was, though, paid 132 grand of taxpayers' money to do the non-job. Now she's quit. Will anyone notice? Well, we'll talk about that coming up soon as well. This is Talk. Welcome to the home of common sense. Welcome also to Claire Pearsall, still with me, former Conservative government advisor. Good morning to you.
Morning.
I do want to get on to Amy Lamé. I'm not a fan. I'm really not. I mean, I don't approve of people taking a taxpayer-funded job who don't do an actual job. She's taken about 8 weeks sick leave as well. Not so sick that she couldn't do some work for the BBC while she was on sick leave from a taxpayer-funded job, and not so sick that when she came off her sick leave, she couldn't go on holiday the next week.
It's amazing.
We all know those people. We know those people.
We do. And there's just been no measurement of what is her job. No. So she could get paid, she could go on some really lovely foreign tours.
Huge sum of money. What's that, 4 times the average salary in this country?
Absolutely, and she also managed to negotiate herself a pay rise up to about 160,000. So you're looking in the realms of what the Prime Minister
Maybe Amy Lamé, maybe if she was paid, but it got a bonus for every nighttime business that closed down in London. I mean, the thing is, nighttime economy, it's one of those things, we talked about this in lockdown a lot, about, you know, people just completely underestimate the importance of hospitality in this country for attracting tourism. Again, people completely underestimate the huge economic impact of tourism as well. People come for nightlife. You know, people will say, "Oh, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to go to Barcelona or Madrid. And, you know, oh, it's amazing bars and restaurants and clubs." Well, if you don't have those, people can't do it. And also, people now expect a 24-hour party city. They really do. Yeah. And yet we've basically seen, you know, London now a lot of the time, you know, 10:30. It's pretty much dead on the streets, you know. People aren't going out about. We've seen Sacha Lord, friend of the show, nighttime economy czar for Andy Burnham, in the Greater Manchester Mayor. I mean, Manchester absolutely, you know, teeming with nightlife, and because there's a lot of jobs involved. Yeah. There's you know, there's just it just promotes a city as a 24-hour, you know, thriving business.
It does, and if you have the public transport system there, you can get people in, you can get people out, and those people that work in that economy are so vital to keep it going. And we just sort of have dismissed it in London, shut everything down, and by 10:30 you're home tucked up in bed.
Yeah, exactly. And again, and I don't want to go London-centric on it, because my point is that we should be emulating what great cities like Manchester are doing. I know a lot of teenagers looking at Manchester for university because of this. But you know, again, you might be able to pick the brightest and the best. Just because you want to party doesn't mean you're not going to work hard. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Right, let's go back to Freebiegate. Keir Starmer has paid back £6 grand worth of free concert tickets to Taylor Swift. 2 different nights, 4 tickets and 2 tickets. £1,000 each. I'm sorry, I mean, literally, there was no one at Taylor Swift concerts in London and Wembley who wasn't on a freebie, who wasn't every single politician in Britain was on a freebie to a Taylor Swift concert. It's absolutely extraordinary. But there's been an outcry over Freebiegate. He's kept all the free suits and the glasses from Lord Wahid Ali. They've given back this sort of ended this rental deal where his wife Keir Starmer gets some horrible, nasty polka dot clothes from top designer, because apparently she can't afford to pay for her own clothes. They've also got, he paid back the money of the cost of a day out at the races, which is an expensive day out if you're in a hospitality box. But he's keeping everything else. He's not giving back the tickets for for Emirates, the use of a director's box, and all the times he's been. I mean, dozens and dozens of times when he claims there's a security risk, he can't possibly sit with the ordinary folk, just like a metre away on an ordinary seat, as if somehow this bit of wood surrounding him in the box is like magic wood that protects him from attack. Even though, of course, Rishi Sunak, when he was PM, would sit in both directors' boxes and ordinary seats. He's paid this £6 grand back. He's changing the rules, he says. He says he wouldn't take any more freebies like this. But he insists he's done nothing wrong and everything was within the rules. It doesn't really add up, and I want to know your reaction. Lots of phone calls coming in. I'll get us some texts and tweets in a moment as well. But give us a call, 0344 499 1000. That's the number to have your say on. Text on 87222. Get in touch on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1, standard network rate message. But, of course, you can tweet us for free and leave a message on our YouTube page for free as well. We'll get to those. But Claire Pearsall, I mean, look, you know, Tories, Boris Johnson in particular, got in a lot of trouble, and quite rightly, for taking a load of freebies, not declaring them correctly. They were rightly criticised by Labour and many in the media for that. But Keir Starmer held himself up as, you know, Mr. Rules, didn't he?
He did. He promised to be different and to change, and they weren't going to be like the Tories, other than they're exactly the same because they've taken the same amount of freebies and probably even more so. But this £6,000, why pay back £6,000? But still trouser 107,000 in clothing and glasses. And you and I have spoken about it before. Who spends 1,500 quid on a pair of specs?
I don't get this. And it's the £6 specs, but also it's the suits.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not expecting... He's a well-off guy. He's the Prime Minister. I'd like him to look nice. I'm not expecting him to, you know, be dressed in something from ASOS. Nothing wrong with that, but he can afford to go and get a suit made if he wanted to. But what's wrong with going to a shop like everybody else has to get a suit, shirts, ties, have them there? Is the issue, is it the contrast between, you know, the hypocrisy of criticising the Tories and then doing it yourself? Is it the timing where this was all announced? You know, I mean, as James Hill pointed out a little bit earlier from The Spectator, it was the end of July. I mean, we've been banging on about it in great detail the last 3 weeks, but actually it was the end of July that this started, when the first revelations were made. At the same time as the announcement on taking £300 away from 10 million pensioners for their winter fuel allowance. So is that contrast? Is that the issue? Is it just that he's so po-faced and so stick up the backside, I'm Mr. Moral, that actually, you know, even people who quite liked him were waiting for him to fall off that, you know, off his pedestal?
But also Labour put themselves as for the working people, whilst also taking a lot of money in free gifts that people don't get when they are normal working people. So I think that jars with a lot, but it's just the sheer way it's been handled. You either have to fess it up immediately or you have to shut it down properly, neither of which they've done.
But you can't say, I didn't do anything wrong, I obeyed all the rules, and then pay the money back and say you won't do it again. Which is it? I mean, it just... So I did everything absolutely fine, but I wouldn't do it again. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
Because that was how it looks. Sense. But you knew it was going to be... His whole thing was, well, again, the only reason you know about this is because I declared it. Yeah, you're legally required to request. Yeah, I mean, you don't... I said this a few weeks ago. It's the idea that, you know, people, I paid all my taxes. You don't get brownie points for that.
No.
It's a crime not to. Is it, well done. I mean, you know, you just... I mean, well, also, give the money to charity.
Well, they should have done. Why not donate the clothes to a charity to sell off if you didn't want to give money or whatever?
I mean, how much fun would that be, buying Keir Starmer's old car stuff? Give him you know the charity I'd like him to give those £6 worth of free concert tickets to? Give it to the Julia Hartley-Brewer Taylor Swift Next Tour Fund. See if I can. I mean, come on. I just, you know, it's the whole thing. I'd love to hear from you on this. Do get in touch. Let's get some of your texts and tweets right now before we go on to other topics, and we'll take your calls after a break. But Mandy says it doesn't matter whether Keir Starmer returns in full or partially the gifts and freebies he received. Nothing will rectify the damage to his integrity that he inflicted on himself. Mandy nailed it. If only he had any advisors who could advise him. If only he had someone who was chief of staff, who had a history looking into integrity and ethics and holding government ministers to account. If only. Yeah. Hi, Sue Gray. How are you? Busy spending your 170 grand a year. Don't need. She's had freebies as well. Robert says, absolute rubbish. He's just like most politicians. Mad to think he can get away with this. It's not that easy. Charlie says, all this man has done is lied to us. Champagne Starmer. Both he and the Labour front benches are all complete hypocrites. Darcy says, £6 grand, what about the rest? Not sure that even covers half of it. The man is a disgrace. It doesn't. It covers a fraction of it. Tom says, well, they were certainly right when they said change begins. However, it only happened in a negative way. David says, am I the only one who just thinks this is a media storm in a teacup? I know a lot of Labour people, Downing Street people have been saying that. The trouble is, if you could see the reactions online, you can see the phone calls we get, and I know that newspapers are being inundated with messages about this, MPs' postbags as well. This is not a manufactured storm. We wouldn't still be talking about it if no one cared about it, I can assure you. And Ruth says, Starmer and his ilk are at the top of the gravy train. The rest of us should stop paying tax and claim freebies too. Well, again, he hasn't had to claim tax on those, pay tax on those benefits in kind for his job, but there we are. Let's talk about Israel. Israel again as well. We spoke to Andrew Fox, a defence expert, a few moments ago, but we've had developments this morning. The head of Hamas's government in Gaza has been killed. The Israeli military have said that's Rohi Mushtaha, who was eliminated alongside other senior security officials in strikes 3 months ago. They've only just announced those deaths, basically to confirm that they say that Hamas didn't announce the deaths to prevent loss of morale. But there we are. But of course, the Hamas, really the leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, is still somewhere hidden underground. And surrounded, we understand, by hostages and handcuffs. So basically, the IDF, even when they do know where he is, they can't risk taking him out because they don't want to lose so many hostages as well. But these revelations, front page of the papers today, that Sir Ben Wallace, the former Defence Secretary in the government that you served in, and you've spoken about this before, we just don't have the defence capability to be that much use against Iranian ballistic missiles.
I mean, it is ridiculous that we have let ourselves get into that position where we cannot have the armoured vehicles, the weapons that are required in order to help an ally. And if we cannot help an ally, how on earth are we going to defend ourselves? And I think that most people don't really understand defence spending. There are a lot of big numbers of things that you can't comprehend and you can't see.
I mean, the cost of these jets and these tanks is enormous. It's off the scale. I mean, it's huge.
It is, but to have a deterrent, you need to be able to actually have one
and have them working.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a huge number of stuff in the number of our ships and our battleships. I don't know all the terminology. I'm not going to pretend I do. But our jets and things like that just simply don't work.
Yeah, and I think we saw that on the run-up to the election. I think it was Grant Shapps disappeared off to go and play fun and games on a warship, and it all failed. So the sort of missile that it was meant to be shooting then just failed abysmally.
Their defence, his argument for this as Defence Secretary was, well, we test these things. And the point of testing is to find out whether they work or not. You wouldn't have been there if you thought it wasn't going to work. Yeah, but we need to know this. But again, you've got Iran right now. They've got all these top range missiles and things. Well, how's that working for you? Because they didn't take out a single Israeli.